A 2,000 host playbook took 45 minutes. The controller was idle, but hosts were timing out. The culprit? Default Ansible settings that serialized everything. Let's break down Ansible Performance Tuning, how it works, and the exact mistake behind that failure. Ansible Performance Tuning means tweaking settings like forks, pipelining, and caching to minimize execution time and resource usage. Without tuning, Ansible runs serially with small concurrency. With tuning, it becomes a high-throughput automation engine. The fork setting controls how many hosts run a task simultaneously. Default is 5, which is absurdly low for production. Increasing forks is the single most impactful change. But be careful, too many forks can overwhelm your controller. Set forks in Ansible, CFG under defaults. You can also use the Ansible forks environment variable. Start with 50 and increase while monitoring CPU and file descriptors. SSH Pipelining eliminates the separate SFTP file transfer. Instead of 3 SSH operations per task, it uses 1. This can reduce SSH overhead by 2-3x, but it requires disabling requiretty in sudoers on managed hosts. Enable pipelining in Ansible, CFG under SSH connection. Then ensure defaults requiretty is in etc/sudoers on all managed hosts. Verify with VVV to see pipelining is enabled. ControlMaster multiplexes multiple SSH sessions over one TCP connection. The first task opens the connection, and subsequent tasks reuse it. This saves thousands of TCP handshakes in large deployments. Add these SSH args to Ansible, CFG. ControlPersist equals 60s keeps the socket alive for 60 seconds after the last task. Adjust based on your task duration. Strategy plugins determine task execution order. Linear is default but slow. Free lets fast hosts move ahead, reducing total time. Host pinned keeps tasks on the same host consecutive. Use free for independent hosts. Set strategy to free in Ansible, CFG. You can also set it per playbook with strategy, free. Ensure tasks are idempotent to avoid race conditions. Async tasks let you start a long operation and move on. Set async 300 and poll 0 to fire and forget. Later, use async status to check completion. This prevents blocking forks. Here's a complete async example. The first task runs in background. The second polls until finished. Adjust retries and delay based on expected duration. Fact caching stores gathered facts between runs. Redis is faster and handles concurrent access better than jsonfile. Enable with gathering equals smart to only gather when cache is missing. Configure Redis caching in Ansible, CFG. Install Redis server and the Python Redis library. Use flush cache to force regathering. The profile tasks callback prints cumulative time per task at the end of the playbook. Use it to find slow tasks, but it adds overhead, so disable it in production. Enable profiling by adding this to Ansible, CFG. Run your playbook and look for the task summary. Focus on tasks with high cumulative time. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. With forks equals 5, only 5 hosts ran at a time. Without pipelining, each task used 3 SSH connections. That's 2,000 hosts * 20 tasks, 3 equals 120,000 connections. The controller was overwhelmed, causing timeouts. The root cause was Ansible's default configuration of forks equals 5 and pipelining equals false, which caused 120,000 SSH connections for 2,000 hosts and made playbooks run 45 minutes. We changed Ansible, CFG. Forks equals 100, pipelining equals true, and SSH args with ControlMaster. We also disabled requiretty on all managed hosts. The same playbook ran in under 4 minutes. The key change was pipelining equals true, which cut connections by 2-3. The root cause was the default forks equals 5 and pipelining disabled. This caused excessive SSH connections and serial execution. Always override these defaults for production. If you set forks higher than your file descriptor limit, Ansible will crash with too many open files. Always check ulimit, N first, and set forks to at least 50 less than that limit. If managed hosts have defaults requiretty and sudoers, pipelining will fail with a sudo error. Fix by adding defaults requiretty to sudoers on all hosts. Free strategy can cause concurrent writes to shared resources. Ensure tasks are idempotent, e.g., use line-and-file instead of shell append. Long ControlPersist values leave stale socket files if hosts reboot. Keep it short, like 60s, and clean up with SSH stop hostname if needed. If you fire and forget without checking status, failures go unnoticed. Always use Async status if the result matters, or use poll 5 to monitor. JSONfile caching can corrupt under concurrent Playbook runs. Switch to Redis for production environments with multiple simultaneous executions. The ControlPath option in Ansible. CFG uses %H, %P, %R placeholders that may not work on all OpenSSH versions. On older OpenSSH, e.g. 6, 7, these placeholders are not expanded, causing socket path errors. Use ControlPath equals tmp/ansible %%h %%p %%r double %% to escape them in Ansible's INI parser, or omit ControlPath to use the default. The article mentions using Async status, but doesn't show a complete pattern. Here's a robust way to wait for multiple async jobs using a loop that checks each job's status until all finish. When using pipelining equals true with become, some modules, e.g., copy with content, may fail because the module's stdin is consumed by the SSH session. This is a known limitation. To work around, use become method. Sudo with pipelining works for most modules, or avoid pipelining for tasks that rely on stdin. Always test with your specific modules. The article shows profile tasks, but doesn't demonstrate how to parse its output programmatically. Here's a simple shell command to extract the top 5 slowest tasks from the profile output. Use these commands to diagnose performance issues. Check ulimit, verify pipelining is enabled, monitor controller resources, and profile tasks to find bottlenecks. Let's run through some common interview questions. Default forks value, 5, too low for large envs. SSH pipelining requirement, requiretty disabled. ControlMaster pitfall, stale sockets with long ControlPersist. Compare linear versus free, linear waits, free independent. And a few frequently asked questions. What forks value to start? 100 monitor CPU. Can pipelining break modules? Yes, test first. How to flush Redis cache, Redis CLI flush all or flush cache. Let's recap the key takeaways. Increase forks to 5200. Enable pipelining and disable requiretty. Use ControlMaster with short persist. Switch to free strategy if possible. Ready to go deeper? Up next, Ansible linting and testing with Molecule, then Ansible Windows automation, then Ansible network automation, and Ansible tutorial for beginners. Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.